One of the reasons we look back on what God has done in our lives is to be encouraged and remember what happened. It can be real easy to go through life and just kind of drift. But when we look back at what God is doing, we say, He was working. He was moving. And maybe that's a subtle point and something where we're like, well, duh. But it can be real easy to forget those types of things. And there at the end of the video, there was a quote from a preacher by the name of Vesta Magnum. And it said there, "We don't need you to turn things upside down in here. We need you to turn things upside down out there." And the fact of the matter is, too many times we focus on the institution that is the church, and we forget the mission that God has called us to fulfill and build His kingdom. So that is my challenge as we think of what God has done this past year and what He's calling us to do. But when we look at the past year, one of the things that is going to define this past year is that pandemic, without question. And we're still in the midst of it, trying to figure it out and what's happening. And so our church made the decision on March 14th, 2020 to close our facility. And so from March 14th, 2020 to May 31st, 2020, we did not have anything inside the church building. Everything was digital and streamed and emailed and communicated in that manner. Now, one of the things that I do want to point out, since that date, I have not worn a suit and tie to church. And none of you have said anything about that. But this past week, I kid you not, Roy comes up to me, my 4-year-old son, and tells me, "You have to wear a tie to preach." If you saw Roy last week, he had a polo on with a tie. And so this morning, he wore a polo with a tie because he's ready to preach, because he doesn't think I can preach today because I don't have a tie on. So this morning, and I don't know where Chris Van Busker went, this morning, he said, since I don't have a tie on, I can play the drums instead, which is a terrible idea for me to play the drums. But the fact of the matter is we've made adjustments with the pandemic and tried to figure out what ministry looks like and how we serve God and connect with Him during this time. But one of the things we're reminded of, that no matter what the world throws at us, God can still work. And so from March 14th to May 31st, when everything was only and exclusively online, we had 2 people give their hearts to Jesus, and we had 1 person rededicate their life to Jesus. And we praise the Lord for His ability to work even in circumstances that aren't ideal, in circumstances that we say that's not what we would have drawn up ourselves. We also are reminded that as a church, as followers of Jesus, we are called to have an impact for Him. Our mission is to impact the world with the love and message of Jesus Christ, which is why we as people work together. In this last year, we had 474 different ministry positions that were filled, volunteer positions, and 40 different people led something. 40 different people felt God's prompting in their life to say, I'm going to do something. Not just show up, but I'm going to lead others and help. And so that's why we as a group, as a church, participate in things like Paint-a-thon, even though it's canceled this coming fall. But we have 2 particular ministries that seek to serve the community. We have Shared Blessings, which is our clothing ministry. Once a month, outside of this pandemic time, once a month we have clothes set up in the edge, the building there on the west side of the building, the sheet metal section. Just filled with clothes. Now, it's filled, but it's organized and it's clean. Nancy and Charlie Corns do a fantastic job making it so people can come and shop and get whatever they need, and we help close to 200 people a month. And we also have our food ministry, Love Thy Neighbor, where once a month we have a box of food for people where the goal is to have one meal a week for them for that week. And there's several items put in there, and we work to serve the community with that, and we serve about 25 households per month. But that's not because we turn people away. If you know people that need help, we have resources to be able to do that because we believe so strongly in making sure we impact our community for Jesus. Now, one of our groups that I don't think gets the notoriety that it deserves is our mowing team. Our mowing team goes out and They mow at least once a week, and during the rainy times, it's a lot of times twice a week. Thank you to Chuck Griffin and David Watterson for their leadership with that. But they save the church thousands of dollars every year for not having to contract that out by doing it ourselves so that we can focus on the mission. Another area we have that serves and works to serve outside of our organization is our sweet corn ministry. Now, we've already had our this year's sweet corn, so my numbers will be a little off from what you may recognize. But last year in 2019, we raised $13,892 with 11 days picking. So for total last year was $179,399 total dollars since we started selling sweet corn in 1998. Remember, our sweet corn goes outside the church. It doesn't pay the light bills, doesn't do anything in the church. It pays for our missions work that we as a church do. Thank you to Randy Clark, Kathy Clark, and Dan Miller for their work in helping with that particularly, but also for the 53 people that helped last year and the 49 people that helped this year. Thank you for your dedication to come and pick and sell and help us to impact the world. One of the things that we emphasize is the importance of growing in our relationship with Jesus. We have fantastic leaders and teachers in our adult, in our teen, and in our children's departments. This last year, I spent several months with our children's department Sunday school, and I'll tell you what, our 3 Sunday school teachers have a passion for our kids. We have Debbie Landers, who is actually teaching this week. We have Katie Logan and Sharon Stonehouse. You know, what I find really interesting is all 3 of those women have very different gifts, very different way that they teach and lead. But I tell you what, they love those kids and they love Jesus. And they're investing in them in a way that I know they are happy to be there. See, when we allow the passions that God has given us to be used for His kingdom, we get excited about it. Too many times we show up to some type of ministry event or, well, I signed up for this, so now I got to be here. And that's kind of our mentality. And maybe I'm over-dramatizing things. But when we allow our passion to be used by Jesus, we get excited and encouraged by that. Another thing that we are working to do is invest in you as individuals. The church can get a bad rap by saying we just want from you, want from you, want from you. We have resources that we are trying to invest so that you can become a better person, a better follower of Jesus. And there are some discipleship components of that. But in general, whether it's a better parent, a better steward of your resources, a better neighbor, we have been working to put things in place so that we can help you be better. Not so the church can benefit, but just so you can increase and improve. One of our core values is that of give. And well, I want to thank you for those who have continued to sacrificially give during the pandemic. I'm humbled by your willingness to continue to do that, whether it's weekly or monthly, whatever it is, and how you continue to support the work of the church. But part of this value in giving is for the church to find ways that we can partner with other organizations to be generous. Last August, we had Phil and Denise Anderson here who shared a message and what God was doing in their lives in this compassionate ministry that they have in Cactus, Texas. And this ministry is set up to help those who are essentially immigrants or trying to figure out their immigration status. It's a poverty-stricken area where countless ethnicities and nationalities are represented there. But we contributed to their ministry. But I contacted Phil this week, and he's going to give us a greeting about how we might be able to continue to partner with them.
Greetings from Cactus, Texas. For those of you whom I haven't met, my name is Phil Anderson, and I'm the Executive Director of Cactus Nazarene Ministry Center and the Well Health Center. One of the most difficult and yet rewarding parts of the many ministries here at the center is partnerships. It is difficult because partnerships almost always involve money, and asking for money isn't one of the topics of my seminary. Yet, it is also extremely rewarding because it is through financial partnerships that ministry is accomplished and lasting relationships built. That's why this partnership between Burlington First and Cactus Nazarene Ministries is so important and so precious to us. Your faithfulness to the ministry and the kingdom of God is inspiring. Thank you. Thank you for your servant hearts. Thank you for caring about the marginalized and often demoralized yet beautiful people of Cactus. Thank you for listening to the voice of the Lord and responding in obedience. May God bless you abundantly.
One of the things that we're called to do is to serve those who may be considered by society to be the least of these. And Cactus Ministry is one of those ministries that is doing that, and we can continue to partner with them. So we'll have more information for you later as we look at what that looks like. But I wanted to bring that greeting from Phil. But also this last year, Gabrielle Kemper went on a humanitarian project to the Dominican Republic. And she had a passion for some of the things she encountered there, particularly the fact that fresh, clean water was something we take for granted. And so she got us connected with the Foundation for International Medical Relief of Children to help with water. Now, it didn't help everybody, but it was a start. And one of the things that we as a church can do is continue to partner with organizations to help people around the world. We can't all do everything, but we can do certain things to do our part. Now, one of the things that we are called to do is connect with each other. Connect with those who are part of our church, connect with those who are our neighbors, our friends, our coworkers, whether someone does know Jesus or doesn't know Jesus. We are called to connect with people. I want to say thank you to Michelle Kelman and her work with the First Impressions team to make sure that when people enter our building on Sunday morning, they are greeted in a way that lets them know we care about them. Now, that's has changed with the pandemic a little bit, but that doesn't devalue the work that the First Impressions team has done. But particularly during the pandemic, we had Sunday school lessons that were put on social media. Hannah, my wife, did Friday night fun nights, which if you missed out on those were hilarious. Those were a lot of fun. So I don't know, scroll through the church Facebook page and go find them. I don't know how far you'd have to go down. But it was a lot of fun, particularly in a time where we didn't know how to have fun normally. But thank you to Hannah for her work with that. We also, last year, it's hard to think past the pandemic. As I was going through this, March is kind of where my world stops. But last August, we had Corntastic. I'd kind of forgotten about it until I went back on my records. And we had 51 people that contributed to help volunteer for that. And Corntastic is our ministry where we set up free food out here, bounce house, face painting, snow cones, and just free for the community as a thank you for them supporting our core ministry. And thank you to Randy Clark who led that and coordinated all of that. But one of the things we've been working on is how we can connect with different people and new people. And one of the best ways to do that is through new ministries. Now, as I mentioned, Randy Clark was the leader of the Corntastic event, but he also was the leader of the outreach committee. But he came to me and said he felt God was moving him more to focus on missions, and so he asked to step down with that. What happened is we couldn't find anybody to replace Randy. Apparently there's only one Randy Clark in the world. But So we've actually split the outreach committee up into 3 different groups. We have Be One Kind, led by Hannah Alexander, the evangelism team, led by Larry Derry, and the social team. I assume we're coming up with a new name for that sometime, right? Okay, all right. That just sounds lame for what they're trying to do, I think. And actually, I was the one who just put social team on that. So if anybody's lame, it's me. So anyway, but led by Jessica Clover is that group. But anyway, because our mission is to impact the world with the love and message of Jesus Christ, and these 3 groups are trying to figure out how we do that locally, globally, within our church, and all those types of things. Because it's not just a matter of how we keep things functioning, it's how we impact those outside. And speaking of outside, You may have noticed our landscaping is not as great as we would like it to be. We did have a contractor that was supposed to do some work that fell through, and so we've been trying to do it ourselves. Thank you to J.P. Van Buskirk for all of his work and leadership with that, particularly. If you've never seen J.P. Van Buskirk run a tractor, it's impressive. I promise you, he is extremely skilled, or it's a uniloader is what he calls it. But his ability to run that compared to me is my ability to my 4-year-olds to run it. So he is just that good, I promise you. But anyway, thank you to him. I see Dan's here, Mike Palmer's here, all of the guys who've helped with that. But we're working on it and getting it, improving it. But it doesn't stop there. We're working on ways of how can our facility be a better place for God to use. But with that, we're reminded that it's just not about the facility. If there's one thing this pandemic has taught us is that the church is not the building. And so when we have the quote from Vesta Magnum that we don't need you to turn things upside down on here, we need you to turn things upside down out there, it has a much different meaning. Because some of you are watching in your living room. And what I'm saying is we don't need you to turn things upside down in there. We need you to turn things upside down in the world where people are. And maybe you invite people into your living room to watch with you. And that's great. I hope you get the principle of what I'm talking about. See, the goal is not to get people to experience a worship service at 10:45 on Sunday morning, whether in person or online. That is not the goal. It's about our daily lives. That's how we impact people with the love and message of Jesus Christ. And so as I was thinking about this and this challenge, I was brought to Luke chapter 3, verse 4 through 6, where John the Baptist is proclaiming about Jesus, and he says, "Prepare the way for the Lord's coming. Clear the road for him. The valleys will be filled in, and the mountains and hills made level. The curves will be straightened, and the rough places made smooth. And then all the people will see the salvation sent from God." So we're to prepare people for Jesus. That's our mission. That's what John told people, to get people ready for Jesus, and that's what we're called to do now. And as I'm thinking about this, two concepts come to mind. The first is that we have to recognize that we are broken. Every person is broken. Matthew West recently released a song called "Truth Be Told." Reading the lyrics doesn't do it justice, so I'd encourage you to look it up and listen to it. But the chorus says, "Truth be told, the truth is rarely told. I say I'm fine, but I'm not, I'm broken. When it's out of control, I say it's under control, but it's not, and you know it. I don't know why it's so hard to admit it, when being honest is the only way to fix it. There's no failure, no fall, there's no sin you don't already know, so let the truth be told." So part of what Matthew West is getting at is God already knows we're broken. You are broken, God knows it, so let's just get that over with. We can't fool God. The only way we can be healed is if we allow our brokenness to be exposed to God so that Jesus comes and heals us. So when we think about preparing people for Jesus, we start with the fact we recognize that those who do know Jesus and those who don't know Jesus are broken. So I'm broken, you're broken, everybody else is broken, so we start at the same point. We get rid of this holier-than-thou mentality that, well, I've known Jesus for X amount of years, so I've got it all figured out, so it's just about me, and I'm good to go. It's all about these people over here who don't know Jesus. Well, it is just about them, but we got to make sure our pride gets checked out the door. The Ritz-Carlton, I've never stayed at one of their hotels, but has a motto that I think speaks to what it means to follow Jesus in this manner. Their motto, whether they're talking about the lowest paid employee or the CEO and founder, "We are ladies and gentlemen, serving ladies and gentlemen." Every person who's an employee of Ritz-Carlton is to serve with dignity, as though they are serving the most important person in the most important way. And I think we can apply that to our lives as well. We are broken people serving broken people. But the great great thing about it is our story doesn't stop there. We're broken people serving broken people to experience the healing of Jesus Christ. See, the secular world stops before it gets to Jesus, but we're all broken. But then we get to the grace and the hope that we can find in Jesus. So when we serve people, when we have the same starting point, because we're all broken, we know that there's some future that we can cling to. But there's another principle about the Ritz-Carlton that I think speaks to us. Each employee, if they encounter a customer who has some type of problem, the employee, no matter who it is, no matter how high or low they are on the totem pole, each employee is to stop what they are doing and assist that customer. They don't direct that customer to somebody else or pass it off to somebody higher up. If the customer has a problem, that employee is to stop and help that person. And that employee can actually do something about the customer's problem. In fact, each employee has up to $2,000 that they can comp to help whatever problem there is before they have to get approval. So each employee, even this person who started last week, can comp up to $2,000 for a customer before they have to get approval. So they are empowered individuals. See, as I said, the power of the church is not in the building, it's not in the institution. It's the fact that each individual follower of Jesus is empowered to make a difference for him. We're broken people serving broken people to experiencing the healing work of Jesus Christ, and you are called to go do it. You don't pass the buck. When we encounter someone that's broken, our purpose is to help them find Jesus. We don't direct them just to somebody else. Oh, somebody else will do it. Or maybe somebody else will pick up the slack. It's about you and me serving people all the time. But I do think we have a second thing that we have to make sure we recognize. If we're going to turn the world upside down, but not turn it upside down in here, we have to resist the temptation to be inwardly focused. Now, there are certain things that we have to navigate, certain things we have to do in order to function as an organization. But I'm telling you what, if the organization, the institution that is the church, died, that doesn't mean the church that Jesus established dies. So we have to make sure we get out of the way of what Jesus wants to do. Because too many times we focus so inwardly that we have all these fights and arguments that we miss the opportunities that Jesus has given us. One of the prime examples of being inwardly focused is the music. Now, I'm not sure if you like the songs today, and you can't blame Chris Rambusker for that, because I picked him out this week. I like the songs. I guess, sorry, that was self-serving. I really like the songs, so I'm assuming you liked them too, so it sounded like I was looking for a compliment. If you like the music, make sure you tell the people who help do it, not me, because I just clicked a few buttons. But the point of the matter is, whether we like the songs or don't like the songs misses the point of the gospel message of what Jesus is calling us to do. Because the point is not, well, do I like the song? The point should be, can that song help someone who doesn't know Jesus find Jesus? Now you may say, hold on. You know, I need to worship, I need to grow, I need to be spiritually fed. And it is true that our songs in worship can help us emotionally connect to God, which is extremely important. We all need that. But when our starting point is, how can I get something out of it, then we have missed the point of what God is calling us to do. It's not about you absorbing. That's inwardly focused. It's how can I consume? The church that Jesus established is not to be a consumer-driven group. It's to be a serving group that goes out and impacts the world with love and message of Jesus Christ. So when we talk about whatever it is we're doing, whether it's music, whether it's Sunday school, whether it's doing some type of service project, our question has got to be, how does this help us prepare the way for the Lord's coming? Because Jesus is coming back. He is. But until then, He's telling us to get to work, to do something about it. He didn't create somebody else to do the work that you're called to do. He created you to do the work that you're called to do. We're all called to do our part, not to pass the buck to somebody else, but to be active participants in His kingdom. Because remember the goal. We're preparing the way for the coming of Jesus. So what? So all will see the salvation sent from God. This is not about feeling good about yourself. It's not about having notoriety. It's not about making yourself look good. It's about how can other people be drawn to Jesus. But I'm telling you what, when we work in a way that draws people to Jesus, I'm going to get closer to Jesus too. I'm going to be encouraged. I'm going to be inspired. And that's one of the awesome things about Jesus, is that when He tells us to give, it's not so that we will be destitute, not so that we will be living lives that are unfulfilled, but because He knows that's the best way to live. He knows that's how we can live lives that are inspired and encouraging. And that is what it means to be the church. Live lives that serve people, to prepare the way for Jesus so that they can see His salvation. We can participate in the redemptive purposes that Jesus has for this world. But it starts with recognizing that we don't need to turn things upside down in here. We need to turn things upside down out there. Because an inwardly focused church will always have arguments and bitterness that consume them. But a church that focuses outwardly, a church that focuses on those who don't know Jesus and how can we serve them, how can we prepare the way for the Lord's coming, how can we help them experience the salvation that Jesus provides, then what happens is all those things we were arguing about get a lot less important. Now let me be clear, I'm not sharing this as a rebuke. I'm not up here passive-aggressively mad at people because they're fighting inwardly. That's not my point. My point is to remind us that we have a mission that Jesus has called us to fulfill. That no matter where we are, no matter what we're doing, we are called to prepare the world for the coming of Jesus. Because He's coming back. And we sing, Lord, we wait for You. You know, the old-time prayer is, Lord, come quickly. We want that to happen, not so we can escape. We've got work to do here and now. So that is why we must be the church. We must be the followers of Jesus that He has called us to be. Because no one else is going to do it. God created you for this work.